And let's do it again on a Tuesday. Countdown. And good evening to everybody. What a lovely Tuesday we've had, at least out in Colorado, where I tend to or happen to find myself right now, where we've been dealing with a couple of different seasons all in about a week's time, and some places, even a day's worth of time, or even the drive across a single state. And we'll look at one of those states, which is very near to where I am, had almost all four seasons just today alone. You can look at the temperature map and you go, oh my, you'd think it's October when the cold is coming down from the north or from the south if you're farther south, and then that would be April. And the seasons changed rather abruptly. And that old saying, just wait 5 minutes or drive 5 miles, and the weather will change. We'll start off on Twitter today as pictures just kind of tell the best story. They kind of let it all come on in. Scott Staley, you can follow me at weatherwars.info or at weatherwarsinfo over on Twitter. And we're going to start with NOAA satellites. And this is the time of year. I had just spent the last 2 summers, in fact, a year and a half in Puerto Rico. And it's interesting to wake up one day and the sky is yellow. And what is that? Oh, that's the Saharan dust. And that is indeed what it is when those very strong north winds catch up with those easterly trades, and then literally millions upon millions of tons of dust are vaulted off of the dunes and then carried across Dakar and then continued across across the Atlantic. And you can see how large an area Africa is that is vegetation less. And with the desertification that we've gone through over the last 2, 3, 4 decades, that has pressed gradually farther and south, and human interaction on the land is not helping the matter. There are a few places and a few projects where we're beginning to reclaim the desert. It's doable. It is absolutely possible with the tech we have and even the weather changes that are coming. An aspect of that can absolutely be redone. But those easterly trades pick up the dust and carry it across the Atlantic, and they can even measure as that dust ends up in the Amazon basin across the mountains of northern South America, and it is very potent. It is very fertile dust or sand, as the case may be, and so it's kind of a benefit in the long term to bring that across the ocean and deposit those sands and soils and nutrients elsewhere. This is Telluride, Colorado this morning. Look at that snow all the way down to what was ultimately the valley floor. You can see on this black SUV. This was probably a GMC or a Cadillac. Snow on the hood. And when I woke up here in Crestone in the San Luis Valley, same thing. A fat inch and a half, potentially 2 on the ground this morning. But with this June sunshine, it melted awfully quickly. Kansas is the state I was talking about, where apparent temperature, this is just noontime, central time, and we've got mid approaching upper 90s as we look at the southeastern corner of the state, but way out west as we get to Goodland, not quite to Russell, but Goodland, and on those western frontier counties, temperatures in the lower 40s. So a spread of 55 degrees from one side of the state to the other. And then as we cross the state line into Colorado, 30s were the rule. So Kansas was kind of the winner, the sunflower state today, as you saw that gross contrast of temperatures from one side to the other. All right, Ben Noel, a very early look at winter 2020 to 2021 reveals a classical La Nina pattern. So the brown, as we kind of go full screen, would indicate drier than normal conditions, and the green impinging across much of Australia with above normal precipitation through a good all the way from Melbourne, Brisbane, and then up into the Northlands, and then also through the Philippines, very, very wet. The Pacific Northwest, California, likely drier than normal, Alaska wetter than normal, but the bulk of the United States was slightly wetter than normal temperatures. Now remember how good the models are. This is completely speculation at this point. It's still early. We're not even through summer, but if the trend does develop and we're about 2 to 3 weeks seeing that signal in the oceans occurring, and as you know or will learn, oceans tend to drive the larger climate cycles. The sun and the ocean, the land just responds to that because it cannot hold the heat like the oceans can. And the oceans have a whole different fabulous circulation system that has just saved this planet. All right, Falcon Lake. This is from the National Weather Service in Brownsville, Texas, just across the border, across the Rio Grande from Mexico. Falcon Lake is reporting a temperature of 99 degrees with a dew point of 78. This yields a heat index or a feels like temperature of 117 degrees. So the Texas Gulf Coast just miserable today. This is dangerous heat, so please be sure to take frequent breaks outside or avoid altogether. That would be my vote, doing those outdoor activities. All right, a gift from Kalen Patel as we look at what was Cristobal this morning, continuing to loop and to circulate. It is now much, much farther north than that. This is, in fact, yesterday afternoon. And the hidden trick I had used, Stowe says Stacey Abrams, and I kind of learned yesterday that I can't really pull audio into here. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. This is only relevant because I had an experience of hiccups on the air. And I used to like to get a little soda before work, go in and sip it while I was putting the show together. And then sometimes it bites you in the behind with hiccups. And I had to go on the air and endured a 3.5 minute episode or weather show with 33 hiccups. And it was apparently hilarious enough to make what is America's Funniest Videos at some point back, right about 20 years ago. All right, satellite view of Oklahoma dust. We'll look at that a little bit closer. But even through the nighttime hours, the satellite imagery is so good that they can pick up and sense these small particles simply because they are different than the surrounding oxygen and hydrogen molecules, but the water molecule, it's very, very different. So it shows up nice and strong across Oklahoma. And then the very strong winds continue to circulate around the storm. Let's pop into that and then take a look at where those temperatures even are now. It's still hot in Texas, deep into Texas. It's warm and still Goodland, Kansas at about 48 degrees, up into West Yellowstone at 42, Mullen Pass at Idaho 38. That's kind of the contrast from the hottest to the coolest. New England warming up with some 70s and 80s returning, but still the sun has set there now, so it is tending to cool off. And then Cristobal, which was a remarkable storm in its own right, not so much because of strength or truly rainfall, but its pattern, where it developed, and the simple fact that it is the third one as we were only into the first week of hurricane season. And then we'll come on in here, drop a little closer, and there's some fires beginning to erupt across New Mexico, Arizona, and I believe that's far southern Utah. It's the latter part of the frames that we can see this, but I really kind of wanted to come into here because it was those thunderstorms setting in the light that was really kind of potent. And now I'm just waiting on the internet to catch up. But these thunderstorms erupting in the edge of that heat, there's the smoke plumes, but then the sunset just casting those long shadows, just because, the satellite imagery today is so good. Our technology is so good. And it's got so much farther to go. We just keep funding these departments and let them do their earth sciences and the remote sensing. And it really just, it's kind of encouraging and it excites kids. And getting students interested in science, I believe, is really, really important. Not necessarily in a biased way as to this is happening or that is happening, but just for the pure science. And fortunately, that I had very supportive parents that would help me get involved and do what I could on the meager budgets that we had. So you just become a nerd, and I guess nerds are cool now, aren't they? All right, so 3 events. This had the snow this morning across Colorado, and the thunderstorms, nothing terribly severe. They're just good rainers, just really good rainers, as indicated by the severe or the flood watches in northeastern Iowa, southern about Rochester, Minnesota, and then the potential of a severe of a tornado just south of Chicago. There's the larger picture with more showers into the northwest. And as we look ahead through day 1, day 2, day 3, still the risk of some snow later on tonight in the higher terrain, although it's probably isolated at best. The severe weather's wrapped in a lot of rain, so probably not going to be too fun to chase. And that's the same tomorrow. There's just not a lot of severe weather for those kind of guys to be chasing. And then high pressure. Cool high pressure as where are we? 9, 10 June. And we have a cool front that is pressed all the way off the Gulf Coast and pushing southbound. That to me is kind of amazing that we've got that kind of cool weather. These are the places that could have recorded record highs today. So Southern California, Eastern Northern Texas, and then a few scattered spots out to the east. But as we look out through the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, no record highs anticipated anywhere in the country. Tonight, there may be upwards of 40 record warm lows, but then that tapers off as well as far more moderate weather begins to take shape, and I'll show you why. All right, good to see you there, Tracy, Vicky, and a mysterious Facebook user. I love mysterious Facebook users. Those are kind of cool. Um, all right, what we're looking at here is North America, Florida here, down to Mexico. And, behind me, you see well, you probably don't see green, you see bricks, but trust me, there's green back there. And we're going to set up this cool chroma key thing so I can be like I was, at the station and get the chroma key set up, and I can actually interact with this rather than you kind of trying to follow out where this pointer is on the screen. I'm going to get that worked out here in the next week or so. Hopefully no more than that, because my fingers get achy working on a trackpad all day. All right, so what we're looking at is this mild ridge out west. These two are big babies. This is the cold one, and this is Cristobal. So as I animate this and take it forward, Cristobal gets drawn very, very quickly. And the next less than the next day, it's lifted into Ontario and then off to Quebec, and they're just kind of absorbed into the jet stream. But what happens is a high builds across the middle of the country, and this honestly introduces summertime heat almost for the first time in a sustained way into the northern plains, into Nebraska's, into the Dakotas. And still another storm tries to bump it out of the way along the west coast, and it just literally tries to penetrate it. It flattens it a little bit, but still the heat remains in the west. But then back east, I'm going to back up because this is almost a week. We're going to want to see how this unfolds right back and through here. But this keeps the southeast rather cool, and then the west stays unsettled. So what we're looking at is kind of a funny pattern where, and this will be the last map. The reds and oranges, obviously, the cool, the greens and the blues, the cooler weather. Excuse me, the reds and oranges would be warm, but the heat kind of shows up out west and really kind of gets going as we move out through Sunday, through Monday, through this coming Tuesday, through Wednesday. So 7 days from now. And that pushes temperatures on the Front Range probably close to 100+ degrees. But then all the way back east in places like Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Eastern Texas, Ohio, they're all sitting under the cool, cool high pressure, fed by some temperate Atlantic air and some Canadian air mixed on in there. So that's kind of unusual to have that cool air literally hang out through nearly the end of the month. So there are some things changing on a bigger, a little larger scale. Hey, Reese, you did make it. You did make it. What's going on down there in North Texas? Oh, I'm too far up there. Right through there. So you probably didn't get a whole lot of precip down there out of this event. It was a close call for you. And probably a little bit of wind, a little bit of dust as it remains terribly dry. Not terrible. Well, yeah, it remains dry there. So enjoy that cool weather, chasing off the humidity and the cool nights that you've had down there. All right, guys, we'll go back to full screen. And if I had a little music outro, I'd kind of roll that right now. And then the credits of all those who've helped. Credits of, well, it'd be a really short screen. But anyway, all right, guys, take care. Any questions you want me to throw in there real quick? If you want to type them on in there for those strangers that I don't know your name, everybody else, you kind of hear me all the time. But all right, guys. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock Mountain Time for another look at another perspective, the other kind of talk show where I can kind of venture off into some other topics. And oh, you remember me from Pokey, Linda, huh? Yeah, that was. Can you believe it's been 15 years since I was on the air there? It seems like an entire lifetime ago. But that was probably one of my favorite jobs of all times was in Pocatello, Idaho. It was a great station, great employees, and I had a part of a great news team. And I appreciate them and friends with them to this day. All right. See you tomorrow on another perspective where we're going to have a discussion on points of view. How do you look at something? If you look at one object, I got examples. We'll deal with it then. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great night. And as always, please keep looking up.